welcome back. I'm so excited to be back on YouTube and back on the podcast after a big hiatus. The video that I just uploaded, I filmed a while ago and it took me probably like 4 to 6 weeks to even get it edited, but I was moving house and just like doing the deepest inner work and just welcoming in this new chapter. And I feel like sometimes it's good to do that. We're here like, oh yeah, we need to produce content every week, which yes, you need to be consistent, but if you don't have that time out to actually be able to deal with your own stuff in your life, you're not going to be showing up as your best self. So I'm really proud of myself for just dedicating the time to become that next version of me. And I've got a very exciting topic today. It's all about what doing the work actually means, because we might think self-care is like, oh, have a bath, buy a new moisturizer, but it's everything you do up here in your brain. And it's not easy. we glamorize it and we're like, oh yeah, like personal development, but it's actually looking at the deepest parts of yourself, the hardest things that happened all in your childhood or your last relationship that caused this trauma, why certain patterns keep showing up in your life, what you do to contribute to the negative challenges that you are facing, or like how you could have handled situations better. And here I am. I've been falling into a bit of a comparison trap lately where I've found myself comparing myself to 20-year-olds. So there's these young people at my work and I'm 27 and a half and they are 20 years old just doing the same inner work as me. And it's like, I didn't even know what that was until like Christmas time. And they're so put together, they're so advanced in their career, outgoing personality. And like when I was 20, I was doing pot wash and they're doing like sales and real estate and just so advanced. And I'm like, when I was 20, I just did not look like that or act like that or know about any of these concepts, but it wasn't really around as much or not as widely spoken about or accessible with the internet, I guess. And then I kind of think, well, most people don't do this in their lifetime. Like most people will go their whole lives not really changing or looking into the deepest parts of themselves. So all I can be grateful is that I did discover it, and it is actually still pretty fast growth. That like I'm not the same person as I was a month ago, a week ago, and even yesterday I had 4 different very big tests from the universe. And I actually had, even though someone said like, oh, sorry to hear like you had a bad day, but I was actually having a good time because I was like, oh my God, I handled that in a way that I don't even know myself. So it's good to look at situations like that, like when challenges arise, it's actually trying to teach you something or see if you've implemented the changes, and it's just like redirecting you and making your life what it is supposed to be based on what you're supposed to work on. So let's dive into today's topic. Don't forget, for more daily updates, you can connect with me on Instagram and TikTok at Cassie Amber Wellness, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube and podcast for more weekly episodes now that I'm back in the zone. So I'll start off with just a little life update. In the last episode, I mentioned how I just got back from New Zealand, and then the next day got told I had 4 weeks to move out, and it's just like one thing after the other. And I was trying to hold the faith, like the universe wouldn't put me through all the stuff, like going through the breakups, that I had to move to Brisbane, where I finally got the job that I wanted after 60 applications and being like denied for every other thing I applied for month after month. And like losing everything I ever wanted in the click of a finger. The dream man and relationship that I ever wanted, my dream house after my whole life just like living in chaotic flats with like other people's energy. I had no flatmates. I had the beautiful modern white walls, the kitchen to myself, everything I'd ever wanted, and then lost everything in an instant. So that was a very hard thing. And then moved into this other temporary house, and then I had to move out, and I wasn't getting any luck with places. I was looking at cabins out on the outskirts of town, out in nature, or like looking at other share houses, and nothing was quite the right fit. And you all know, like, house hunting is very energy taxing and time taxing. I was like, I'll get back from New Zealand and finally work on my business again and launch something. And then it's like, every moment of the day I need to be searching for something so I'm not out on the street, because I'm in another country by myself with a huge dog. So it could lead to me living out of my car and showering at the gym outside work. So like a little bit stressful. And I was just like a bit too chill. Like I was looking and nothing was quite working. And it got to 9 days out and I'm like, it'll happen. I'm not going to get on a lease in that time. I don't know how I'm going to find anything in 9 days left to go. And I was just like, it'll happen. And I went out to this bush doof, which is like a forest party, to go DJ for free. And in the past, someone close to me would always say like, oh yeah, those things are a waste of your time, you shouldn't be going because you're spending all your money on gas, you're not making a return, you're breaking even, like you can't afford to be going to those right now, you don't have time for that right now. But it's the one thing in my life that lights me up, that I'll do till I am 50 years old. I'll be out there partying. So they would be horrified if they found out that I went to go play for free because these people's event got postponed, and I just wanted to do it out of goodwill and because I was depressed at the time. So I'm like, you know what? I want to go out and party in the forest and play my favorite music. So the thought of, that person would be disgusted that I would do it for free. I went there and I saw this girl on the dance floor who I'd chatted to or said hi to her a couple times, and we were meant to meet up for coffee but hadn't hung out in private yet. She was like, oh, I heard you telling this man that you were on the hunt for a house. I'm actually have been thinking about getting a flatmate for a while, but I want it to be the right person. And I was like, oh, well, I've got a very large dog. And she's like, yeah, I had a big dog that passed away in October, and I've even been going to like the SPCA to see if I wanted to adopt one, but didn't know if I could handle that responsibility right now. So I'm like, okay, wow. And then she asked what rent I was paying, and she offered the same rate. And she's like, yeah, come for viewing on Monday. So I'm like, what the hell? I go to this event to play for free, and I potentially get a house out of it. And I came here and it just seemed right, like the best fit. And so I moved in, and we're like the same person. She's like, because I'm very soft, my identity is a unicorn. I know that sounds ridiculous, I guess, to the average person, but I like different unicorn colors, like pastel pink, blue and purple, and I like wearing cool. Today's the first day. I've always wanted to wear this outfit. This new rave outfit is my actual clothes for the day, but I'm like, oh no, you better not. And I actually put it on just to wear around the house today. It's got this little alien thing on it. And I identify as a unicorn. It is my character. She is like a fairy, a soft little girl that is also a dubstep DJ with pink hair. And I was like, okay, that's pretty crazy. But also my best friend is coming over, and we were going to try find a place together. But then it's awkward because like when she leaves, I'd have to find another flatmate that's the same. Or if I moved into a house where their lease was ending in August, then they would have no flatmate. If I left in 2 months when my friend came and I didn't want to have to move house twice, it was like, how is this all going to work? Like, where am I going to go? And there was a little like granny flat attached to this property. And I said to her that night, I was like, I have a proposal for you. How would you feel about my best friend moving in from New Zealand, who is also a dubstep DJ with pink hair? And we're all on the same path, like on the same journey going, well, she's a few years older, so I guess she's done a little bit more work on it in her healing and like solid in who she is and very calm energy. But me and my best friend have been going through the same thing in our relationship, same life lessons at the same time. That always happens. Like when we were younger, on our way to school, we both dyed our hair black as a surprise without telling each other, and then like met up to walk to school together and we're like, what the hell? Like that kind of thing always happens with us. So I go to pick her up from the airport on Wednesday, and then she can have her own space, so it's not like we're all in each other's space all the time. But this chapter is going to be powerful, and now it's all coming to light. Like when you go through these things, you don't see why it's happening. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're just like, I've lost everything. I've got such crazy goosebumps. I've lost everything I've ever wanted. I'm heartbroken. I hadn't quite healed from the first breakup. Opened my heart again. Boom, heartbroken again. Doubled my trauma. And yeah, and then I'm like, well, I had to move to Brisbane to get that awesome job that's got flexible hours that I actually enjoy going to. And that's another mindset shift as well. It's not like, oh my God, I've got to go to work today, which most people think. I'm like, it took me 60 applications and 5 months to get that job. I'm going to work today. And I'm like, gonna look forward to it. So yeah, that's enough about that. I'm just like, I feel so at peace within myself, and it's crazy because you think something is everything you've ever wanted, but then life looks different, and then you're like, wow, this is actually way more suited to my next chapter, and like helping me become the best version of me, because your environment plays such a big part in like your daily success. Like when your home life isn't right, it just creates so much underlying tension that you struggle to operate at your best self if that tension wasn't there. So yeah, that's my little life update. I'm just over the moon. I'm just so happy. I haven't felt this happy for a very, very long time. I will be launching a Becoming Her 30-day self-love challenge. So I'm just about to launch the page on my website where you can sign up, but it's going into all the different topics that I've been diving into over the last 6 months of healing. And it's going to help you become the best version of you and prioritize you, and just like create the life that you actually want to live. So I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end, but I'll put the link below for signups as well. So second up is self-reflection. Something I had to think about when my last relationship ended, because I was quite an emotional wreck. I'd just been like cut down time and time again. Not being able to get any of the jobs I applied for. I was basically told for a whole entire year, which I only realized how crazy that is a couple of days ago. Everything I did for a year wasn't enough. My bodybuilding prep didn't try hard enough. Your app isn't good enough. You don't learn skills fast enough. You don't try hard enough. You don't do enough in a day. Like, just not productive enough. Like, everything I tried to do, not enough, which brings up that childhood trauma of like trying to be enough for my parents. So when I thought about that, like everything I poured my heart and soul into for a year, not enough. So no wonder I didn't have the self-confidence to like actually get anywhere, because it was just like falling deeper and deeper into a hole. So I had to ask myself, if I was a boyfriend or partner, would I want to come home to me? Because I was an emotional wreck. Which is partly hormones, partly like, I don't know, probably self-sabotage, trauma, just like, being so stressed out about my goals, not just waking up like, oh cool, what can I work on today? It's like, wake up, the alarm, oh, I need to achieve my goals, and like getting out of bed, like instant fight or flight mode, like living in there for so long. So of course I was a bit of an emotional wreck. So when I came out of that relationship, I'm like, if I was a guy, would I want to come home to me? I'm not just like, hey honey, here's dinner. I'm like all over the place. You don't know if dinner's going to be on the table, or if I'm like crying in the bed or angry. It was like crazy. So being able to reflect on that and be like, okay, cool, what can I change for the future? How can I change my life? Do I need to supplement certain things? How do I balance my emotions so I can be more level? Another thing with self-reflection is asking yourself why the same problems keep popping up in your life. What certain issues keep showing up for you if you keep attracting the same kind of guy, like money issues. For me, I've like had to move house so many times. I personally don't think it's like I'm a horrible person. I think it's just like lessons that I've got from each one. Like being able to look back on the past and be like, oh, okay, cool, like why did that work out like that? Or like learning how to stand up for myself if someone else puts their trauma on me, and finding my voice again. And even just like little lessons, like even though it sucks never being able to plant your feet, you go through and sprinkling your stuff all the time because you need to keep stuff ready to move, so you don't like accumulate a lot of like unnecessary things in your home. And yeah, like you just learn what's important. If your dog's happy, you're happy. If there's peace in the home, you just learn to be okay with like only having yourself, if that makes sense. What part do you play when things turn sour? How can you handle things differently? And what are you avoiding that would allow you to create that life that you dream of? So this can show up in procrastination, self-sabotage, and just getting your self-concept up to scratch. Like, is there something that you know you need to do and then you just always put it off, or you're consistent for a couple days? And then for me, I just realized today it's like doing the bodybuilding check-ins, and like I've been tracking food actually more often now, like most days, but it just gets like lost in the pile of tasks. Like I haven't checked in for 3 weeks and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to enter the measurements tonight. Oh yeah, I need to enter the measurements tonight. That means it's not a priority for me. So that means I'm self-sabotaging my potential placing in the show because I'm not putting in the groundwork now. It needs to be like, do your effing check-in tonight. So it's just like being able to look at those things and see where you're holding yourself back. Number 3 is being sure of yourself. I've got an interesting story for you. It's like probably the funniest thing ever. So this guy asked me to be on his YouTube channel to get interviewed. And I thought, back then when he asked me, he's like, yeah, it's about veganism, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, well, back then I was like, oh, well, I'm not vegan, I'm just 90% plant-based. And he like started ripping into me back then. So I think I blocked him. And then from this other account, it had been a few months, he messaged me, and I didn't realize it was the same person, like, oh, do you want to be on my YouTube channel about veganism? So I said once again, oh, I'm not vegan, just 90% plant-based, because he asked like how long I've been vegan for. And I've talked about, if you're new here, I've talked about this in lots of other videos and podcasts about why I take that stance. And I said, I'm open to coming on and sharing my views, but I don't want the whole video to just be like about how horrible I am that I eat fish. Like, I'm open to like discussing it, but I don't want that to be the topic of the video. So I'm just going on to get attacked by all these vegans online. Like, that's not productive to me. So we did the video and it felt like 2 questions, and then basically just felt like, yeah, because I crave salmon the week before my time of month, and it's been like clockwork like that for 6 years, and it's my favorite food. So I just buy like a 2-pack a month. It's like not that much. That's like very minimal. And yeah, basically just, he was like, oh, well, what would you say if someone said, oh, well, I need to eat dog for my health? So I was just like, I don't know, tell them to go somewhere where they can. Like, what else are you meant to say in that question? Like, there is nothing to say. You're just like, I can't stop it. Like, what kind of a question is that? And then, yeah, it just felt like a whole attack on like why I choose that food, because my body craves it like clockwork. And when I gave it up, I went into the supermarket and went crazy for it. And I've got friends, I've talked about it before, I've got friends with similar stories, like a friend who went full vegan for about 4 months or something, and yeah, her periods got really bad, she got really depressed and anxious, blah, blah, blah. And these are very down-to-earth, hippie, spiritual people who like eat off the land, very balanced meals, not under-eating at all, like pure whole foods, like not trying to do any restrictions, like fully raw or anything. And then her partner came home and gave her fish and eggs one night, and she felt better. So you just can't deny that. Like, yes, the stories where people are under eating or going to extremes or cutting out all carbs, blah, blah, blah. But if it's a story like that, it's like their body just thrives better on like a slightly different proportion of balance. He told me that the video was live, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll just watch it first to see how I feel about it, because I just felt like it was kind of just an attack the whole time on me eating fish. Like, yeah, not really productive. And I was in the backseat of my car at a bush off, not sober, and I read his response, and I had to like zoom up on the screen. I was like, did I read that right? And he's like, you're not the victim, the fish is. So because I brought up that like I felt like the interview didn't quite go in the way that we discussed, and it's like not really productive or what I had imagined or planned. So I was like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Please don't come on my channel or talk to me again. And because I don't want to talk to someone that's not understanding. You can have an adult discussion and be like, oh yeah, here's my views, here's my views. Oh, okay, cool, and like hear their understanding. But if I'm just being shut down, like, no. So I said, please don't, come on my channel again. And he's like, no worries, I've got no problem not talking to you again if you always play the victim. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? I don't think I replied after that. And then I sat in there and I reflected on it, like, why am I triggered by that? And I've gotten to a point where, also the reason I always like talk about my own stories, I think it's an ADHD thing, like when I'm trying to share a thing I've learned or like share a tip. I think people with ADHD like say their story to be able to relate, or like, that's just like how I communicate, I guess. So I reflected on that and thought, like, why was I so triggered by that? I think because over the last few months I had been, or probably my whole life, but I'm actually not doing that right now. Because I thought when I came out of the relationship, I'm like, oh my God, he broke up with me and I lost the house because of him, and all this stuff keeps happening to me. And I had been playing the victim, but I just finished doing enough growth to realize I'm not playing the victim now. I'm like embracing the change in my personal life and looking forward to it. And me bringing up a concern or something that I'm not happy with is not playing the victim. That's just a small mindset on his behalf. So that's what I mean in terms of like being sure within yourself, being able to look at something like, oh, why did that trigger me? Am I actually doing that or not? Do I come across like that or not? And being able to like interpret it in a more zoomed out way. The second thing I've been told, which was just yesterday, is there's not much going on in your life apart from this person you'll portray online, which is also fake. Like, just meaning I'm a fake person and my social media doesn't actually reflect who I am. And that one didn't even really stump me too much, because as soon as I look on my Instagram, the most recent reel I did was about assuming the best. Like, if someone's looking at you, you might get anxiety or think that they're judging you, but they might actually be complimenting your hair or outfit. So how can you apply that to gym anxiety, blah, blah, blah. And I talk about my struggles online. I talk about things I suck at online. I talked about ADHD paralysis in one of my reels last week, about how like, I get so overwhelmed with tasks, I don't know where to start, so I just lay down, and it can cause like emotional dysregulation and like all these different things. Like, I'm pretty open. Like, I know people who go out and hire fancy cars and pretend like they own them so that they can give off this, like, portray this rich lifestyle that they don't even have. Like, if I look on my social media, it's like exactly who I am, in my personal opinion. So that didn't even ruffle me too much. I was just thinking they're just trying to like grasp at anything to get to me. But if you're sure within yourself that you have good intentions, then those things won't ruffle you. Detachment in dating and relationships. Interesting topic. I'm not a relationship coach and I'm not an expert, but some crazy stuff has happened recently. So when you finally let go of chasing something, that is often when it will actually come to life and happen, and the universe will give it to you. So I, just overcome all this emotional stuff, like just gotten out of the hole, and then couldn't be bothered with boys. So I was like, you know what? I think no one should have access to my energy, and put up this big no boys bubble. And I was like, maybe I should be celibate for a while and just like, no one can have access to me. And I 4 days later, went to my first Berlin style hard techno rave, because I'm usually a dubstep girly. And then it was so cool there. Like, everyone's wearing like black and chains, and it's like all themed, and everyone, this sounds funny, but like techno people, they're just, the way I describe it, they're just cool without even trying. You'll just see them like hanging out there, and they've got like cool tattoos, but they're not even trying to be cool. They just have like such unique clothing style, and like they're just like cool without trying. So I was looking at everyone around like, this is such a cool rave for a unique experience. And everyone in the crowd's proper ravers, like going hard at every drop, like everyone's so loving. And I said to my friend, oh, maybe I should find myself a techno boy. So then at 2 a.m. on the last song of the night, or the last track of the night, I'd done a really hard calf workout and my calves were sore for like 4 days. So I'd been like stretching them throughout the night. And I was on the dance floor and I kind of like just stretched out my calf and like bent over and accidentally booped my butt into someone's groin. Like, oh, boop. And I was like, oh, sorry. And we like both turned around and we were like, whoa, at each other. Like, what a funny way to meet. And then, yeah, we hung out 3 times. It felt like we'd known each other for years. He's like the boy version of me, like birthday literally 2 weeks before me, same features, like dark features, muscle yaz, into the gym and raves equally, same personality, both ADHD, both had the same upbringing with the same kind of family and the same kind of like small suburb or town area, both being kicked out by a partner in another country. Like, we've had the same life, both brought up with like heaps of cool weird animals, and it's like weird. And I said maybe that's why we felt so comfortable, because we were like, on the second time hanging out, we were like deeply holding each other for like hours. And then we talked about it and he's like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. That is weird, isn't it, to like hold someone like that when you don't even know them properly, like you just met. So I said maybe we felt so comfortable because it was like hanging out with myself. So yeah, I was trying not to get too excited, but I was very excited for like a few weeks, like really happy and like excited. And then something popped up where, yeah, he decided, actually, I think it would be better for me to call this off and distance myself from you. And coming from someone, meaning me, where when the last 2 relationships ended, I got on my knees and I begged them not to do it. I don't know if many girls do that. For both of them, like, got on my knees, like, I'm begging you, please don't do this. Like, so then coming from that, where when they decide to leave, my whole world is torn apart. And it's not like I've built a relationship with this person or anything, like we just met, although I was like way more excited than I should be. But I actually sat back and I was like, no, he's removing himself from my life. And if something is meant to happen there, he will come back. And maybe in the near future, maybe in a few years, maybe a few weeks. If something's meant to happen, he will come back, because we met in such a random way when I just said no boys, then thought maybe I'll find myself a techno boy, and then accidentally booked my butt into him, like on the dance floor on the last song. Like, how do you meet someone like that? So just being able to detach and not thinking like, oh my god, I'm not good enough, or like, yeah, why don't they accept me, blah blah blah. Just being like, I'm okay either way. I've never been able to do that before. So yeah, not letting it ruin my weekend or the next weeks ahead of me. Just letting it flow and enjoying things for what they are and thinking about the lessons that it's given you. So that is honestly crazy growth. And I was thinking it's also probably a good thing that that happened, because there was a conversation that we needed to have. So if we did see each other in the future, if we rushed into things now, like, we're not at that state, like, we might ruin it if we get into it too fast. Whereas if we just took it slow and like had no expectations on it, or like, yeah, time frames of like when it should be serious, just like let it flow and just see where it goes, is probably more likely to work out than if we like rushed into something before we're ready and then we might ruin it because of that. So even like going through this, I'm not like, oh my god, yeah, all this stuff keeps happening to me, which I have done in the past. It's like, oh yeah, I think this is happening for a reason, and look, we've been able to talk about all these things, and it's actually like probably a really productive, positive thing. Just remember that your life is about you, and your worthiness is not dependent on someone else's acceptance of or view of you. And the last topic is understanding yourself. So if you can hear these birds outside, It's my first time filming in the new house and I'm not sure how it's going to go, but we'll see. There's always like these things going on outside. So why do you think you act the way you do? And then it just helps take away some of the judgment from yourself, like whether you've got, like I've got ADHD and PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It could be things related to your childhood or just different personality traits, different life things that you've been through. Just not like blaming yourself if you're different or like you act in a certain way. Like we're all different and we all have our things. So yeah, just being able to pinpoint like, oh yeah, I do this because of this. And if there's something you can do to improve it, then you can. Another one is designing your schedule to meet your needs. I met someone else recently who is so dedicated to bodybuilding that like 4 or 5 years out, they're like more strict than me, like eating a calorie amount every day, doing 12-hour days in the sun, and then like, yeah, going to the gym still after doing all of that, just sticking to the schedule already, like years out. And here I am. I was eating bread in peak week last time. So this time I want to be a lot different, but there's still little things I'm not doing enough of. Like I need to start posing, I need to get that organized. I need to be like, even though I'm a nutritionist, I need to learn how to make my meals equal the macro numbers. I've like never viewed food as numbers before. I view it on like, oh yeah, this certain ingredient helps with this and this is how much I feel like of this. I've never like, it probably sounds odd because so many people do follow meal plans and they're like, oh yeah, here's my meals that is like this many macros and calories. I have no idea how to do that. So I'm like trying to learn now. But when I felt inspired by that person to like start showing up more and putting more effort into each day, I burnt myself out. And it's good to have balance. I've been learning about the feminine and masculine energy. So not just always listening to your body, being like, oh no, I'm tired today. Like we need some balance to be like, actually, no, you're not. Like stop making out an excuse, go there and get it done. And you'll thank yourself for it later. But then if I'm trying to keep up with like certain people who just have a different body to me, they've just got a bigger capacity for productivity and to always be doing. Whereas I need to rest a lot more and have more downtime with nothing on. And it helps like my brain like work through the thoughts and like, yeah, not be overwhelmed and yeah, just have like my rest time and stuff like that. So just learning how to design a life that like in a schedule that suits your body's needs. Realizing what's important in your life. Do you want to hustle and grind so hard that you get to the goal lonely and burnt out? Or do you want to do it differently where you're working towards your goals, meeting people along the way who are also ambitious and can help you in different areas and get to the goal, like, yeah, get to the end destination with friends or like with a partner where you've like built it and worked on things together and you're not burnt out, you've been looking after your health in the meantime, and it might take 2 years more, but like you're a lot more fulfilled and healthy and balanced. And just remember that nothing is a waste. Someone recently also told me, oh, I wasted my whole 20s partying. And I was like, that's not a waste. You had some fun times. You would have made awesome connections, made lifelong memories. Nothing is a waste. So like I spoke about even in my last video, I did a whole degree that I'm not even using, but that's not a waste because it's given me really valuable life skills. It showed me so much stuff. It like truly did get me to where I am today. So even though I'm not using it, nothing that you do in your life is a waste. If you go back to the unhealthy relationship one more time, it's because there's a lesson you need to learn and until you start to implement it. It's not wasted time. It's just you working through the things as they come up. And the last thing is getting out of a slump. If you find yourself living the same cycle on repeat, I highly recommend joining my Becoming Her 30-day self-love challenge. I am so excited to be launching something again because it's been a while, but I wanted to wait till I'm on the other side of it. You can't launch something about like how to do this thing when you're still struggling with it. Of course, it's always a ongoing process of learning and like working on your self-love. Like you're never going to be perfect and need to stop doing the work. But like I can't do that when I'm like calling the lifeline all the time, like my life is ruined, and going to the festival in New Zealand, crying in the hammock, like crying myself to sleep all the time. Just like honestly was not okay for like a long time. But I'm so excited to be able to just share some of the things that I've been implementing, which is a lot of the stuff that I've talked about in this video, like working on your self-concept, being grounded in who you are, what do you bring to the table, knowing when people are saying stuff, how to interpret it. Is it actually constructive criticism that you could look at and be like, oh yeah, maybe they are right about that? Or is it just, yeah, people just having a go at you and trying to grasp at anything they can, and you're like, no, I know who I am, I know my values, I know how I show up, and I know my intentions. So it's just really getting to know yourself and really getting clear on the life you want and how you're holding yourself back. Otherwise you will stay stuck in the cycle for as long as it takes you for the rest of your life potentially. So join my program. It'll be running in a month's time, so I'll have the exact dates and everything on the landing page, so that's in the link below. Don't forget to check it out. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful for your time and happy to be back in your ears or back on your screen. Let's have an incredible 2024, even though we're a third of the way into the year already. Let's do this. I'm so excited.